What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Just a Set Conversation. Jared Sandler here, getting ready to bring you episode 70 with Kavon Frazier, former Dallas Cowboy. Kavon started his career with the Cowboys, now a part of the Miami Dolphins organization. Kavon's a great story out of Central Michigan University, and I had the chance to get to know Kavon through some charity work in the DFW area. And man, you talk about someone with a really, really big heart. Really enjoyed talking to Kavon about the responsibility he feels like he has in using his platform for good. We also talk about the underdog path. He wasn't a star recruit. He wasn't even rated as a recruit. He wasn't even a 2-star recruit. But he's now carved out an NFL career of around 5 years and counting. Really enjoyed getting a chance to chat with Kavon. As always, would appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel. We got all sorts of content we'd love for you to check out. Maybe you just want to click the thumbs up icon, or hey, you know what really helps is, you know, someone who you think would be interested in this conversation, take the link and send it to them. Really, really would appreciate that. But here we go, episode 70 of the Just a Set Conversation with Kavon Frazier. All right, Kavon, one of the things I always like to lead with, and you can take it in whatever direction you'd like, but when you think back to your childhood interests, hobbies, influences, experiences, whatever, what are the things that stand out most to you?
Yeah, so my childhood, my biggest influence was my mom. I grew up as I grew up in a single-parent household. My mom raised me and my sister by herself. My dad left when I was about 2 years old. My mom also had multiple sclerosis, so, I've seen a lot. I've seen her, struggling. I've seen her suffering. And she still found a way to put food on the table. She still found a way to drive us to every one of our games. Me and my sister, we both was a multiple sport athlete. 3 to 4 sports. Basketball season, I played for 3 to 4 teams. My sister also played for 2 to 3 teams. And, she'll try to make every single one of our games. So, she was definitely my inspiration. I was a basketball. I was in love with basketball growing up. Kobe Bryant, he was my favorite player. He was actually the reason why, I started playing basketball. I honestly would say he's the reason why, I fell in love with football too. Just his competitive nature. He made me just seeing him, what he do on a day in, day out, night basis, and he made me want to compete and want to get better and be one of the best.
So what pushed you to sports? I know it's an easy activity for a kid to get involved in, but what led you and your sister to be so heavily involved in sports?
Yeah, I think mainly it was my mom. Since we lived in the inner part of Grand Rapids, the inner city part, we lived in a rough neighborhood. She knew that sports, also putting us in Christian schools, and sports was ways to to keep us safe and ways to keep us out of trouble. So she tried to put us in every single sport possible. I played soccer, baseball, basketball, multiple sports, track, all at a very, very young age, just because she wanted us to be able to choose our own path, but within sports. She knew that was a way that, that we would learn a lot about teamwork. We would learn a lot about life and stay out of trouble. So yeah, my mom, she pushed me to sports. And like I said, Kobe Bryant was a big reason why I got really, really serious in the sports that I played. Just because I seen how he went about his work. I seen his mentality, and I give him the blame for, for me, going all out in everything I do.
So, Kavon, I remember I was getting ready to broadcast a basketball game for the Texas Legends over there in Frisco the day that we learned of the Kobe Bryant news, and it was surreal. And Not obviously not in a good way, but I was right in the middle of the basketball community, and actually was talking to Del Harris, who's his first NBA coach, and it was again, not positively, but it was incredible to just see the range of emotions for people who had never even met the guy, and the way he inspired people like yourself. And, I think there's some great athletes, but only a few of them maybe have that sort of a hold on people. Uh, what, what do you remember about that day, and the emotions you felt, and how you found out and all that stuff?
Yeah, that's a day that, that I'm gonna remember for the rest of my life. Uh, I don't want to compare it to 9/11, but 9/11, everybody remember where they was at when it happened. I was super young when that happened, and I remember exactly where I was at. I was at school. We was in the classroom and we was watching it after after all that happened. They turned on the TV and all that. But same with the Kobe thing. Not trying to compare it to that, but same with it. I was taking a nap. And as soon as I woke up, my phone was blowing up because all my friends back home, my mom, everybody that I know is back home knows that Kobe, like, he was my inspiration. He was the one that inspired me to, that's all I talked about. Whenever somebody brought up basketball or who's the best, I would always say Kobe. So everybody knew that. So I woke up from my nap, seeing all my phone blowing up. I was like, hey, what's going on? And then my agent texted me. He got us like in a group chat with, all his other players. And every time something happens, he shoot messages to him. And my agent texted me, and he texted me it, and it was like a link saying like Kobe Bryant died in a helicopter crash. And I didn't know if it was real at first or not, just because you hear so many things every other day. Who knows if it's real on social media? And then, I just went on Twitter and tried to see as much as I can, and I just seen everybody talking about it. And then when I seen like some of these top reporters or top, websites or whatever talk about it, like CNN, then I knew, okay, yeah, this is a real thing. And it was just mixed feelings at that. Well, not mixed feelings at all, but I was heartbroken. I thought he was, the invincible, nothing could kill him, because that's how he played on the court. Like, nothing could stop him. So, I thought he was going to be alive for a super long time. And sure enough, it was true.
Kavon, being a part of the Cowboys, I guess you get the chance perhaps to meet a lot of people, so shot in the dark, but did you ever get a chance to meet him or interact with him in any way?
No, I didn't, man. I was, I wanted to go to, one of his last games. I remember I was training for the combine and stuff, and me and who's my wife now, but she was my girl back then. We were gonna, make a flight to Houston to check out one of his last games, and we never end up going. But no, that's one guy that I wish I was able to meet, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to.
All right, so you mentioned growing up in Grand Rapids, and I actually spent, I don't know if we ever talked about this, but I spent a little over 2 years before I was able to move back home to Dallas in Michigan, and actually did some stuff at Central Michigan, got to broadcast some Central Michigan athletics. Unfortunately, it was before your time, so I didn't overlap with you, but what was that experience like, high school in Michigan and the recruiting process, and what ultimately pushed you to Central Michigan?
Yeah, man. The recruiting process in Michigan is, it's a lot better now. When I was coming out, so many years went by that we didn't have any D1 athletes. I think it was early 2000s, probably maybe like 2004 when we had, a couple Division Ones. I don't know if you guys know Reuben Riley, Turner Nande, his name for the Jets. It's a guy that, dang, what is his name? I don't know how I'm blanking right now, but but yeah, I mean that was like the last time that I remember us having so many D1 athletes. But then my year, leading up to my year, I mean, I didn't have any offers. Junior year is when I got, one offer, and that was Central Michigan. And I just, that was after my junior year. So going into my senior year in that summer, and I just committed. Not right then and there, but a couple weeks later, we went to the camp, to the Central Michigan camp. When I was playing running back, slot receiver, on the defensive side. My senior year, I was mainly playing linebacker because our team needed me to play linebacker. We barely had in Michigan football, they run the ball a lot. So, I was playing linebacker, but for that 7-on-7, I was playing more of a safety. And I remember I caught, a bunch of touchdowns at receiver, and then I had probably about, in the whole 7-on-7, I probably had like 9 to 10 picks in like the 5 games or whatever. So, leaving, they called me and they actually offered me on the phone. So I was really hyped about that because that was my only D1 offer. And then I went to Michigan State camp. They said that they might offer me there, but when I got there, they put me on a different field with all the the leftovers, basically. Like, they had a lot of guys from Florida and all the 5 stars and 4 stars on one field, and then they put everybody else on a whole nother field where no coach is watching besides the Central Michigan coach was only there watching me. So, right after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to Central. Played my senior year out where I committed, and then I played still hoping to get that Michigan State offer or Michigan offer. I really wanted to go to State. They never offered me, so I ended up going to Central Michigan, and it was the best decision of my life.
So Mark D'Antonio was the coach at Michigan State. Then was Dan Enos still at Central Michigan, or was that okay?
Yep. It was Dan Enos. I still remember the Michigan State coach who was recruiting me. I remember his full name. I'm not going to call him out or whatever. Coming to my school, talking all that good stuff, and then they just never offered me. I think it was between me and some other safety that was from Pittsburgh, and they ended up picking him. So, it was unfortunate at the time. I really wanted to go there, but thank you, Michigan State, for not offering me because, it worked out pretty well.
So I'm curious, obviously some guys in high school, they're 5-star recruits and they've got a million letters from every school under the sun. And I'm sure at that point they're thinking, yeah, like I'm going to go to college and then dominate the NFL. And then there are guys like you who maybe didn't have a million letters. And I'm curious, when you went to Central Michigan, were you thinking like, hey, I'm an NFL football player? Were you not sure? Like, when did you realize, or when did you really have the belief, like, I'm an NFL football player?
Yeah, so, I didn't even have any stars. Like, if you look me up, from college, it said NR behind my name, like non-rated or not rated. I didn't have any stars. And going in, we had guys, obviously Central Michigan don't get a lot of 4 stars or 5 stars, but, we had a guy that was a 3-star who was actually a safety too, that they was really, really hype about. We had a couple of 3 stars actually, and then mainly everybody else was 2 stars. But that's one thing that they talked about, that the players would talk about within each other, their high school career and all that. But I never really participated in that because I was trying to make my name in college and and further along. But yeah, I mean, I always, like, that was always the end goal. I never really went in like going into college. I was really, really humble. I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know what was going to happen. I just wanted to go in and and do what I can to play. I always knew that I could play, but I just wanted to go in with an open mind that, hey, I might not play the first year. And if I do, okay, let's go out and ball out. If I don't, do what I can to make an impact. And I mean, it ended up working out. I ended up being like one of the only, in my class, I was like it was two of us that didn't redshirt, and I was one of the two. I think when I first got there, we had to do like a bunch of testing and stuff. And right off bat, like I jumped like I think a 39-inch vertical, and then I think that was when, they was like, okay, he's super athletic. Let's move him, to too deep. And I was the only true freshman, and at least in the too deep at the time. So, at that point I knew I was going to play. It wasn't until like my sophomore year when I knew I really, really had a shot to make it to the NFL. But even at that point, I mean, my career was so up and down at Central Michigan. Started freshman year, sophomore year. Didn't start. I think I might have started one game my junior year. And then I started all my senior year, and that's how, I'm here now.
All right, so, and you get drafted by the Cowboys in the 6th round, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what were your expectations going into that draft? Was it, I could possibly be undrafted, or, maybe a late round guy? Did you think maybe you could have been drafted higher? What were some of the expectations that had been set in front of you?
I was definitely expecting to get drafted. As the draft went on, the 4th round went by, the 5th round went by, it was getting late in the 6th round. Then that's when I was like, dang, I might go undrafted. Like, it was going on. But going into the draft, I was definitely expecting between the 4th and 5th round. That's what I was expecting. That's what I was told. That's what, multiple coaches told me that where they had me on their board. But I fell to the 6th, and, a lot of 6th rounders don't make it 5 years or going into 5 years in the league. So, just off that, I think I definitely beat the odds a little bit.
So did you, and I know like for a lot of people, the thought is, well, the Cowboys, like what an amazing experience. This is America's team. But, and I don't know what your thoughts were on that, but I do know that, I hear from a lot of players who maybe were 6th or 7th round picks and they aren't like you. You're right. Like, you beat the odds. This is the fact that your NFL career is still going is, means you're the exception, not the rule. But a lot of maybe, those guys would prefer to go undrafted so they'd have the ability to choose where they went, as opposed to, getting funneled to a certain situation when, it's that late in the draft. Were you excited to go to Dallas, or were you kind of at that point where you're like, okay, maybe I'll go undrafted and I can pick the best spot for me? Like, what was the mindset there?
No, I was definitely excited to go to Dallas. I mean, yeah, everybody says it might be better to go undrafted, but come on now, every college kid want to hear their name called, and any kid would rather hear their name called. I don't care if it's the last pick of the 7th round, like you still got your name called. And, I couldn't imagine the feeling of going through the whole draft without my call. I just couldn't imagine that feeling because, something you work your whole life towards, and, for somebody to basically tell you you're not good enough, out of the 256, I think that's what it is, people being drafted, like that's basically what they're saying. So, but no, I was definitely excited to come to Dallas. I really, growing up, like I said, I was a basketball fan, so I didn't really know too much about, I barely watched the NFL games. I know that sounds crazy, but now I watch them a lot, but even in college, I mean, like Kobe was still playing. I'm watching Kobe. So, yeah, so with that being said, I really didn't even know what I was getting myself into. Like, I knew it was America's team, but I just really didn't know too much about the NFL. So, I really didn't care where I went, but I mean, I did, like, if multiple people asked me if I had to pick a place, they asked me this when I was coming out, and I either said Dallas or the Lions, just because I'm from Michigan, and I wouldn't mind playing for my hometown team, or Dallas. And sure enough, I got drafted by Dallas.
All right, so you mentioned not necessarily being a huge football fan, and I'm curious because obviously there's a ton of history with the Cowboys, and they have all these legends who seem to be still involved in the franchise, or they come around and whatnot. And I don't know if you know who Michael Young is, but Michael Young played for the Rangers and was one of the best baseball players in franchise history. And there's a pitcher on the Rangers named Brock Burke, and he happened to start the game that the Rangers inducted Michael Young into their Hall of Fame. And after the game, someone asked him about it, and he's like, I didn't even know who Michael Young was. And it was kind of like, are you really? I'm curious, did you have any of that with any Cowboys people, any of the quote-unquote Cowboys legends who everyone, knows everything about, but you're like, who is this guy? Was there anyone like that for you?
A bunch of times, man. My mother or my father-in-law, he's a huge football fan. So, when I got drafted to the Cowboys and, when I got signed by the Dolphins, the first thing he do is text me all these trivia questions about, players, in the 80s or 90s or whatever, and I never answered one of them right just because, like I said, I just didn't grow up watching the NFL a lot. But, as time went on, when I played for the Cowboys over 4 years, I obviously got to know a lot of, of what I call the old heads or the, the older generation players. But, it was a lot of times that, that before, I really knew who he was, that Charles Haley came to the practice, and I didn't even really know who that was, But, now obviously everybody knows Charles Haley. When he walk in the room, he he might be the loudest person in the room, the funniest. But, yeah, man, it was countless numbers of times that happened to me.
What okay, so you're drafted by the Cowboys, and it seemed like, throughout your Cowboys tenure, you're constantly having to earn your keep. You're busting your tail on special teams and doing whatever you can to be a part of this package or that package defensively. What was that like? Because I know obviously the goal is to be in a situation not where you're comfortable and you take your foot off the pedal from a work ethic standpoint, but that going into training camp, like, hey, I've got a spot. Let's get the work in, let's get the body ready. Right. But you're constantly having to prove yourself, and I'm sure there's a benefit to that as well. But what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I'm gonna be real. I'm just be 100% real. Like, yeah, that's exhausting. It's exhausting having to do that every single year, and I thought some years, I earned more playing time, or I earned just different opportunities that I never got. But obviously, it didn't end up like that. But but I think everything happened for a reason, and I think I think just me giving, like, I never gave anything. So if I would have been given something or went into training camp already knowing that, I'm on the team, it wouldn't have fit my story. Like, like I said, in high school, I only had one offer. College, didn't even start my junior year. Had to rely on my senior year just to get drafted to the NFL. Got drafted in the 6th round. It wouldn't have fit my story. So I'm glad it worked out like that. I'm glad I had to, fight and earn everything that I got, and I'm gonna continue to do that. Just hopefully, it's a different type of opportunities here with the Miami Dolphins.
And I want to get into the Dolphins here in a second, but first, 2018, you have a blood scare, and I know it's one thing when you're trying to make a play and you pull a muscle, or you
Right.
God forbid you break a bone or whatever, but a blood scare that's real, that's different. What was that like?
It's so funny because now teams continue, like when I was going through the free agency process, teams was continue asking my agent about that, and it's so funny because obviously, like, people really didn't understand what was going on, like, or people really didn't, it wasn't even like a scare. It was like a random. Well, honestly, I think they said I had to eat more greens. That's what it came down to at the end. I guess my blood wasn't like a clot. Like, I didn't have any blood clots or nothing. It was like my blood wasn't clotting enough, so it was like a precaution thing. But it wasn't even like a a crazy amount, like that it wasn't not clotting. It was like slightly above average or something like that. I don't know. It was very, very slight. So I mean, it's funny that everybody still asks me that, but it wasn't even like in my eyes, it wasn't even like a scare. I knew God wasn't, he wasn't, like, I knew that wasn't God's plan, and I knew at the same time I knew it wasn't serious. Even the doctors was telling me, hey, this isn't serious, but the media blew it up. So obviously, the team blew it up. And then now other teams blowing it up. Like, man, my agent told me at the combine, a team that I'm not even going to say their name because it really don't matter. They didn't even ask about my shoulder or my pec. They asked about the blood, and that's all they asked. And I was like, what? Like, that was well, first of all, that was 2 years ago, and second of all, it wasn't even like a scare. It was something that it was a precaution thing that I don't even know why I was being held out. So, I mean, stuff happens for a reason. I guess God didn't want me to practice at that point, but it wasn't a big deal, and that everyone made it.
Well, I blame the media too. I'm media, but I blame the other media on that one.
I'm not talking about you, but
No, I know.
Yeah.
All right, so 2019, this is going to be a big year. You have the potential of being a free agent at the end of the year, and I'm sure that like a lot of people, you want to put your best foot forward, and hopefully you can stay where you've already laid your roots. And we're going to get into to the impact you've made here in DFW, but you end up suffering a season-ending injury. So what?
Yeah.
I mean, what are you thinking at that point when that happens and you know that, well, my season's over and my time with the Cowboys might be over?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely rough at first because that off season I kind of switched up my training. I switched up my defensive back trainer. So I was really, at the time I was moving the best that I ever moved, as far as a defensive back. I really felt like, the team needed me to go out there and play corner. I could do it just because I was, just for a movement standpoint, I felt real smooth. I felt like I was getting in and out my breaks really, really well. And it was just unfortunate that teams really didn't get to see that too much. I mean, in training camp, I was making a lot of plays that, media was there. They put out what they want to put out. But, I was making a lot of plays. It didn't really have any balls caught on me. So I knew it was going to be, at that point, I knew it was going to be a really, really good year. And I was real confident going into it. Unfortunately, God allowed that challenge in front of me that, I had to embrace, and that's exactly what I did. I mean, it was definitely heartbreaking that, I had a season-ending injury, but, at the same time, I learned a lot about myself. I got to spend a lot of time with my wife and my daughter, and the time of need that she needed me that I really don't want to touch on, but, she needed me like a lot at the time. So I got to, really be there for her during the struggles not the struggles, but the challenges that we was going through, not as a marriage, but yeah, I mean, me and my wife went through some crazy stuff with a baby that we was expected to have. So I mean, I really believe everything happens for a reason, and I think that was the reason, so I can be there for my wife during all that stuff, and be there for my daughter while my wife is going to all these doctor's appointments and stuff like that. So, it worked out. I truly don't know if I'll be in the situation now with the Miami Dolphins that, I'm so grateful to be on that team. I don't know if I would be in this position if I would have played the whole year. So who knows? So, I mean, I wouldn't take anything back. I'm glad I went through that injury. I know it was hard. It was hard on me. I mean, injuries is hard. I mean, you see Andrew Luck, it's a mental, it's it's mentally draining. Just trying to recover from an injury. You got to wake up every day and work and work and work and work, and you might get progress, you might get a setback. So, yeah, I wouldn't take it back for nothing.
All right, so this offseason, you get an opportunity with the Miami Dolphins, your first chance to, I guess, be a free agent and explore that side of the business. I guess, first of all, what was that experience like? Was there a hope that maybe you'd come back to Dallas, or was it pretty clear that, they wanted to go in a different direction and you were going to have to go in a different direction as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it was so. No, I mean, I kind of I think my agent told me from the beginning after I signed him, because I switched agents actually right before I got hurt, and right when free agency started, I asked him, I was like, hey, what's up with the Cowboys? And he just told me straight up, and I think it was more so. I think it was more so a mutual thing. Like, I needed something new. I think, they felt like the same thing probably. So, I hope it works out for them. Yeah. So I kind of knew really from the start that that I was going to be somewhere else, and I was excited for the new chapter. I mean, I am excited for the new chapter. And honestly, I mean, free agency, it was a little bit more stressful than we thought. Going into the combine, we had multiple teams that was hitting him up, that was, he had meetings with, that, that they was making a lot of progress. And then when I actually thought I was going somewhere else. I thought I was going to the Colts. So, they was making a lot of progress talking. And then when the COVID hit, like right before free agency. It was probably like a week or two right before, and they was even talking about pushing back free agency, but they had it on the same day. So when the COVID hit, obviously we can't fly out, we can't do physicals, we can't do this. So I mean, we didn't hear from anybody. He heard from a couple teams, the Patriots. And then really that's about it for like the first month. So I mean, I just left it in God's hands. Obviously, I mean, I know I'm not supposed to worry, but a month go by and you still haven't been signed. Anybody's going to be worried. Still didn't really talk to the Cowboys, so I mean, I knew that was long gone. So I was just waiting on the next opportunity, and just being blessed by God. He put it right in front of me with the Dolphins the day after the draft, or a couple days after the draft, or it might have been the day after the draft actually, and that's when it worked out. And an hour later, we made it happen.
So, I think one of the really cool things about you, Kavon, is the work you've done outside of football, and that's how we met. We both have a set of mutual friends who are very involved in our charitable work here in DFW, and you're so willing to be a part of things, and you had Frazier Fridays, which I'm going to ask you to explain in a second, but before we get to that specifically. You have guys who they sign big deals, multi-million-dollar deals, and you see them getting involved, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But players who are in your position sometimes are a little more hesitant because, you don't have that security, and we talked about that. Right. But it seemed like pretty shortly after you got here, that was important to you. So why? Yeah. Where does that come from, and what was the inspiration to really dive in headfirst into the community?
Yeah, I mean, man, that always been very, very important to me. I wasn't doing it for any of the accolades, which didn't even come. But the whole time I was with the Cowboys, the accolades from that, it didn't come. But I would still continue to do it just because that was where my heart was at, and and that and how I was raised and how I was brought up. How blessed I was to meet, even though my dad wasn't there, but how blessed I was to have other father figures in my life. It really inspired me to give back and to do what I do in the community. And, I think that's a big reason why I do so much, and why right when I got into the league, I was itching to get out there and to actually be in the community and not just write a check, or not just send the people that work for me or for my foundation to go do it. Like, I wanted to be physically in there, because I think that's the most valuable thing you can provide, is your time and your effort to actually make a change. And that's why I was so inspired to get out there and to do stuff. But yeah, as a young guy, 6th round draft pick, you don't even know if you're going to make the team. A lot of people don't, like, they have to focus on football. But I tell myself, and what I want to tell everybody, that, it's bigger than football. The world needs positive influencers who has, a large platform that can, spread messages that they believe in, or spread, awareness to different causes, or, just lead kids in the right direction, lead the next generation in the right direction. And that's why I do it.
All right. So I mentioned Frazier Fridays. Unfortunately.
Sorry.
No. I didn't know. I wanted to follow up on that. You were perfect there. What will, I guess, Frazier Fridays won't happen in DFW, but first of all, for people who don't know, what were Frazier Fridays, or what are Frazier Fridays, and are you going to be bringing that to Miami now?
Yeah, so I'm going to continue to try to do it somewhere. I have to talk to my people and see what we want to do about that. Who knows if hopefully schools be open, so we can do something like that, either in Miami or in the DFW. I know we're still going to be doing stuff in the DFW area. We just have to sit down and plan it all out, with all this COVID stuff, and since I know, where I'm at now and stuff like that. But yeah, Frazier Fridays was, a program that we put on every single Friday of the season. It was literally every single Friday. And, where I bring in a different middle school, in the Frisco ISD area. And I give them a tour around the Star, and then I kind of talk to them about my upbringing and how I was brought up, and also, give them some words of advice of how to make it through middle school, high school, and to get to where I'm at, because that's the goal of a lot of these kids, is they want to get to where I'm at, but they don't have the guidance, or maybe they have the wrong guidance that's telling them, hey, just focus on football. But really, if you have football with no education, you're not going to get to where I'm at. So, that's one thing that I try to that I really, really try to express in these kids, and that's one way I try to inspire them, is by teaching academics, how important it is, and as well as, like, listen to your parents, and and just staying out of trouble. So we have yet to figure out what we're going to do. I know we're still going to continue Frazier Fridays. I don't know if it's going to be in Miami. I don't know if it's going to be in Dallas still. I don't want it. I doubt it will be in Dallas, because I won't be here and I want to be there. But we still have a lot of stuff going on in Dallas. We have Frazier Pierce Closet at South Oak Cliff High School down in Dallas, that was supposed to have a grand opening this past February, but since the COVID hit around that time, or it was supposed to be February, March, and then the COVID hit, so we had to push that back. So, it just gave us a lot more time to plan it and make it right, though. So, but that will be opening up whenever the school opens up at South Oak Cliff High School too.
Well, there you go. Episode 70 of the Just a Set conversation with Kavon Frazier. Really hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Thanks, as always, to Zach Rowe for producing. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. Until next time, stay safe, be healthy. We'll talk to you later.